Hey, this is what you asked me for, this is what I did, this is what you get.
In my head,
You can't believe this is happening again. Your boss is calling you into the office. You know they're going to challenge something that you never even said. They told you to do one thing, they're expecting you to do something else. Why are you being gaslighted at work? Gaslighting at work can be incredibly frustrating because you're already stressed out from doing the work that you need to do at work. But now you've got somebody who's trying to make you doubt what's actually going on, who's trying to get one over on you. Intended or not, it's really frustrating because this is your livelihood. This is where you go to sustain your life, to help your family, to earn money. And so when this is happening in that place where it's a critical part of your life, you're spending a lot of your time there, it can be really, really difficult. Gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse where somebody tries to get you to question reality, tries to get you to doubt yourself, often to manipulate you and to get you to believe their reality, or just to get you to doubt yourself that they have some kind of control over you. This obviously gets complicated at work where you have somebody who does have control over you and your boss. This can be particularly challenging if you're somebody who was emotionally abused in your home by your parents, and so now experiencing this at work, it's like, what's going on? How am I supposed to deal with this? There's also a whole bunch of different power dynamics that are going on at work where your coworkers may be competing with you because they want to get a promotion, or they just don't want to get chopped off and cut off and fired from work. There's also a lot of pressure to get deadlines done, to get projects completed, to have your name on the paper that says that this was done. Workplaces are just challenging in general, and to have gaslighting experienced while you're there, it can frazzle you. I've experienced this myself where I had a boss who we just went back and forth all the time. They were calling me in for meetings with them to try to get me to not believe what I actually experienced. I had copies of emails, and yet they still tried to deny it. They tried to say that I was the one causing problems, and ultimately it became a big problem. So let's talk about some things you can do about this. The first thing that you want to do is to not doubt your own mind, and the best thing you can do to not doubt your own mind is to have record of what's going on. If you have any friends at work that you can talk to about things, ask them, am I seeing this correctly? And make sure there's somebody you can trust. Make sure they're not somebody who's also going to gaslight you. But ask them, have an outside source, maybe talk to people outside of work and be like, am I misjudging this? And be open to maybe you are making a mistake in looking at the situation. But if you're not, they'll let you know. Something else you can do is to have email records of what's going on and try to get things in writing. This is why people do the CYA. They cover your ass with emails, because that way, when it comes down to like what you were supposed to do, what were your job responsibilities, it's written down. It was said letter to letter in the email, and you can always go back to that email and say like, no, look, this is what you told me to do. If this becomes an ongoing problem with a boss, with a coworker, something you might want to do is to first go to your boss and let them know that you're struggling. But if it becomes a real problem, you may want to go to the HR department, Human Resources, but also be aware that Human Resources is there to help protect the company. So they may work with you to try to resolve the situation between you and your boss, but ultimately they're probably not going to side with you unless they feel like there's some kind of pending lawsuit or something going on. So just be aware of that. Their job is to protect the company. But before you even take it there, talk to the person who you feel like is gaslighting you, because it's possible that there's a miscommunication, that there's just something that they've neglected to say, or maybe you misunderstood. And if you talk with them, you give them the opportunity to clarify, and you have a chance to clear up any misunderstandings, because sometimes gaslighting does happen by accident. People don't mean to harm you. They just say the wrong thing, or they misremember what happened, and you get that chance to clarify when you talk with them. Now be aware, of course, that some people are not going to take well to you challenging them, especially if they're your boss. And this can get really challenging, again, when you have a parent who abused their authority over you, who emotionally abused you, and now you're experiencing something that might feel like that again at work with a boss. Remember, your boss is there to direct you, to guide you, and ultimately they do have authority over you. That's what their position is, so they have the last word in these matters, and if that's something that you can't live with, you'll have to think about that. You may have to ask yourself, is the culture at this company something that I can live with? Can I be with these coworkers? Can I be under the direction of this boss, or is this too much for me? And if it is too much for you, either see if there's another department within the company that you can work for. Is there another position? Or maybe you may have to leave the job. You may have to quit. You have to ask yourself, Is it worth your mental health to continue being under this environment? You have to set a healthy boundary sometimes and just cut your losses and leave. And it's better to know that now and start preparing now than to find that out later on down the line when you make an impulsive decision, you don't have time to prepare, and you wind up making decisions that you're not comfortable about making. If you do feel that you really have to bear through this gaslighting that you're experiencing at work and this emotional abuse, what I would say then is to make sure you have strong boundaries. I have some worksheets on how to create boundaries. If you're somebody who has difficulty with boundaries, you can head on over to my Patreon page. They're free, check them out. But make sure that your boundaries are in place. If you can avoid this person who's causing you so much stress, do that as much as possible. If they're your boss, try to figure out a way that you can communicate with them so that they're always clear with you on what they're looking for, so that you always know what's expected of you and you can execute on that and maybe have a record of what it is that they're expecting from you. So you can always go back to that reference and say, hey, this is what you asked me for, this is what I did, this is what you get. Of course, another good option here is to have some ways to relieve your stress once you get home. Take self-care. Actually, before you even get home, when you're on your lunch break, when you take any kind of breaks during your work time, take that time to regain your composure, regain your thoughts, remind yourself that you are safe, you are okay. But when you get home, have somebody that supports you as well that you can vent to, and limit the time that you vent, because a lot of people, they don't want to hear about your work problems for more than 15 minutes. It's difficult, you know, they have their own problems in their lives, and so you can't use somebody else as a dumping ground. However, if you go to see a therapist, they are there to support you. That's what they're there for. They're there to listen to you. So that may also be helpful, especially if you have some kind of trauma in your past that seems to be bubbling up because of what's going on in your present at work. When we're experiencing gaslighting at work, it can be really difficult and we start to feel like we're powerless. But remember that you have choices. You can choose how you interact with your coworkers, how you interact with your customers, how you interact with your boss. You can set boundaries. You can talk to HR. You can get other people involved. You have options when you go home from work on how to take care of things and how to take care of yourself. And of course, there's the ultimate boundary you can set, which is leaving that job and leaving that situation and never having to deal with the gaslighting again. You have to consider that. If you want to learn more about gaslighting, emotional abuse, I have over 250 videos on mental health here on my channel. Hit subscribe and hit the bell after you hit subscribe to get notified each time that I do a video. Thank you to my patrons over on Patreon who help make this video possible. If you want to support me, you can head on over there. I'll put the link above. If you're experiencing gaslighting at work, or if you've experienced it and you have any tips for somebody, leave them down below so we can all discuss this together. As always, thank you for joining me, everyone. I'll see you around next time.